What's up, everybody? Here with Tsuyuki. Every time I feature her in a video, everyone's like, oh my god, she turned so good. Wow, she's so good. And so yeah, let's make a carving like tips video solely featuring her. So I got a prompt for her up there that maybe we could start with, and then she'll kick out some other random tips. And also, she's got the same helmet as me. I love this Giro helmet.
I love this Giro helmet.
And the goggle combination just works really good. So
this is the best Giro helmet, man.
So Giro, you want me to keep promoting this stuff? Give me a call. Send me a message. But yeah, she's on a Donic Park Twin. She rides a Transition, the half pipe specific board when she's competing in that. But for just cruising around on the Donic Park Twin, what kind of specs are you using?
I'm at a 145 with a 7-meter side cut and a 22 centimeter waist.
You bring the side cut radius way down versus your Transition.
Oh man, I want to turn.
Cool. Well, let's make some turns. All right, the first carving tip that I'd potentially recommend from you is I've heard you numerous times talk about finishing a turn. So maybe you could like describe what that is and then demonstrate it.
Okay, so a lot of times when we're riding, we're normally just kind of ride edge to edge, you know, toe side, heel side, and that's really good. But when we're carving and we really want to get that nice G-force along the downhill line, along the fall line, then the best way to do it is to be making sure that we're finishing our turns right across fall line to make it easier, even come back up fall line a little bit before rolling over onto your next edge and then railing through that next turn.
I love it, because yeah, most people, they'll only be doing skidded turns because they're just going too fast down the hill. So if you can get your momentum going across, the only thing I'm going to add is make a 360 view. If there's people or anything coming down, don't take any gambles with these type of turns because these are big and across. But yeah, let's demonstrate some big finished turns. All right, that was perfect. And a lot of times for this, it actually requires going slower, not crazy fast. So just slowing it down a bit. Here is some non-finished turn. So those non-finished, even though they're a nice clean line, especially on steeper terrain and stuff, you'll get going too fast. So it's just about speed control management with that, and then it can make your next turn earlier. So all right.
Let me see. I got a tip.
She's got another tip.
A really good way to know yourself if you're finishing your turns or not will be how that last turn just felt. If you're finishing your turn and you feel like a lot of uphill force or a lot of force is coming up on your board, then you probably didn't finish the turn before. So that's always a good indication. How am I feeling out of this carve? Am I getting a lot of uphill force, or is it really nice and smooth, roll onto your next edge and then finish that next carve?
Cool. Well, how about, I mean, since you actively carve and compete and got, you know, you can't skid a turn up the half pipe wall. So that's why you're extra good at carving. So that's how about some other random tips that you think of?
For carving?
Yeah.
Always look to where you're going. I mean, Ryan always talks about having a 365-degree view of who's coming around you, but even just, you know, paying attention of when I'm coming onto my heels, I'm looking across the hill and where I want to go versus looking down at my board and what my board's doing, or just maybe like a couple feet in front of you. Just like driving a car, you know, try and look those couple blocks ahead, and that'll really help you steer to where you want to go and make sure there's no one standing in that spot. If any of you guys have seen Talladega Nights, you might remember Will Ferrell being like, when I'm getting interviewed, I don't know what to do with my hands. Well, snowboarding is kind of the same thing. A lot of people don't know what to do with their hands when they're snowboarding, unless they're grabbing. But a real good thing to think about is your front hand is kind of an indication of your momentum. Wherever that front hand is on your positioning, it's predicting what your next body movement is going to be. So if you notice, when I carve, before I even get to my new edge, it's my hand that comes around and drops real subtly on that edge, and then my body is kind of following it. It's not necessarily really leading a very strong like momentum part of the turn, but it's just an indication of what's going to happen next.
Let's show your hands.
Start on my heels, just on my hands, just on my heels on edge.
She's asking how long we want this to be. Well, ideally, I'd like it to be like a 30-part series.
I could do that on carving.
I like it. I like it. How about just talking about knees in general?
Knees? Okay, so a good tip, especially if you really feel like your knees are getting knocked in, is that maybe think about like you're riding a horse, okay? Try to push your knees a little bit out over your toes, okay? And that'll spread more weight across your effective edge, essentially giving you a much more stable platform to be railing those turns on. So, if you're feeling like you're riding a little bit like this, okay? Think about getting on that horse, pushing those knees out, and staying real nice and bent.
I love this tip because some of the most famous riders of the early 90s purposely would tuck their knees in, but that's with different stance angles and also just kind of how your legs and knees might be shaped and stuff. But yeah, all the best riders, you don't see that anymore. So let's make some turns. That was some nice tips on the knees for kind of what you think about. And in the video, in that clip, you can actually see the back knee dropping lower than the front knee. And I find that that's often the case with my turns too. I see in the videos. It's not something I actively think about, but I don't know, maybe give that some thought. But how about next? We worked down to the knees. What about the ankles?
Oh, your ankles are just always wanting to be thinking about angulation. You know, it's slightly harder to get more angulation out of your ankles because you are in these like tight boots and bindings, unless you don't have any high backs on.
And when you say angulation, what do you mean?
Angulation is, how far can you get those angles to be getting more steep or less steep, or.
I heard that term a long time ago, and I had no idea what it meant. So.
Yeah, angulation. There's many parts of angulation in snowboarding. There's the angles of the board that's on the snow. There's the angles of your joints on the board, and there's the angle of your body on the snow. So many different things to play with. It's all leverage.
So in terms of the ankles, you're with this, you're talking basically really pointing and flexing?
Yeah, pointing and flexing, and using that pressure to maybe torsionally twist your board to maybe shorten that side cut a little bit to get those tighter turns.
Well, let's see if we could capture some turns where you point and flex and use your ankle angulation as much as possible.
I'll do a big toe side turn, and you'll notice once the angulation starts increasing, that's when even though I'm only on a 7-meter radius, I can make that radius more like a 5 or a 4 or something really tight because I'm manipulating the board through the angulation of my ankles.
Perfect. So that is to an extreme.
Try hard not to boot out. It's hard not to boot out when you're doing that. A great way to demonstrate angulation is when you're doing those really fast, using your side cut, edge to edge, you know, you really have to get up onto your toes and then back up onto your heels and use those ankles to be used with angulation to get onto that edge real nice and clean.
I love that drill for cat tracks. Just make sure no one's next to you, but somewhat slower speeds, and yeah, just point flex, try to do nothing else with the upper body.
I'm not gonna lie, man, it makes your shins burn.
But yeah, between every big turn, there's one of those small turns, and that's the timing of the switch in between the edges. Well, we are towards the bottom of the run, so that is going to conclude this carving tips with Katie Tsuyuki video. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with tips, because once you get carving, snowboarding really becomes addictive. So thank you for the extra insight, and definitely put in the comments if you want to see this turn into a full 30-part series.
Hey guys, anything that makes you guys have more fun and gets you out here on the slopes and love snowboarding, I want to be a part of that.
Cool. Hey, so smash that like button if you loved it. Click that notification bell if you haven't, to see the pretty much daily uploads. Thank you for watching, and kapla!
Kapla!